Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Washko, Executive Director of BioStrategy Partners, and I'd like to welcome you this afternoon to the fourth in our 2021 series, our Practical Knowledge series. Today's topic is hidden sources of funding, tax credits, foundations, and other lesser known means of advancing your company. And we have a fantastic panel for you today. BioStrategy Partners, as many of you might know, is an organization, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to accelerating technology transfer from universities into the commercial market space. We have two key programs, one of which is this Practical Knowledge series. The other is our Germinator program, which you can learn more about by visiting our website, which is biostrategypartners.org. I will allow the speakers to introduce themselves, but just let you know that I'll begin by turning it over to our moderator, Mike McCann, who is head of MVM Associates, head and founder. MVM Associates is one of our longtime sponsors, so as always, we thank Mike, and we also thank our other sponsors, Sbir Gov and University Place Associates. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike McCann.
All right, thank you very much, Michelle. Appreciate the opportunity. BioStrategy Partners, thank you for the opportunity. I love being a sponsor, and the series that you do here provides excellent information. So let's start with the introductions. That's the easiest thing. Then we'll get into talking about the topic at hand. So I'm Mike McCann. I own MVM Associates. I see by the names on here, some of you or many of you probably know who we are or what we do, but since 1997, when I founded the company, we have helped companies identify, manage, and monetize mostly tax credits. We used to do some grants. We'll get a little more into that, but mostly tax credits at the state level. So these are tax credits where you can obtain them for targeted activities like research and development or starting young technology-related firms. And again, either utilize them to lower your tax bill or turn them into sources of non-dilutive income. I've done it since 1997. We've done probably $1 billion worth of these types of monetized tax credits over that period of time in many different areas. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the panel. And with that, I'll let my other panelists introduce themselves. Kelly.
Hi, my name is Kelly Wylam. I direct the Innovation Partnership for the state of Pennsylvania. We are the statewide Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Assistance Program. So we help clients and companies, entrepreneurs, researchers who have businesses prepare and submit hopefully competitive and winning proposals. We have a process that we go through to assist clients. We've created different instruments to help you better articulate and focus on the core competency areas that the federal government agencies care about. There are 11 different federal agencies that have these types of grant funds available. The amount in total of grant funds available is around $3.5 billion a year, in case you're unfamiliar with it. I should note that I'm not the only one involved in the Innovation Partnership. We have over 17 organizations with close to 73 different physical locations throughout the Commonwealth. So I rely on our partner organizations to vet and introduce clients to the Innovation Partnership so that they can benefit from the assistance that we're provided with. I should note that the Small Business Administration and the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, along with our 17 partner organizations, all contribute funding to help sustain the program over the years and receive grant funding as well from the SBA. So I'm sure Mike's going to have some more questions for me throughout the course of our event here. So then obviously Vered.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much, Michelle, for inviting me to speak with your audience today. My name is Vered Nohi, and I'm Executive Director of Philadelphia Israel Chamber of Commerce, which is a nonprofit based in Philadelphia that serves the 3 states, and primarily Greater Philadelphia all the way to actually Lehigh Valley and Delaware and Southern New Jersey, although we have members in Northern New Jersey. We connect companies, academia, venture, and others for joint ventures between Israel and here. And the goal is to increase innovation, partnerships, and grow jobs, opportunities, and revenue in both countries. We strive to push innovation forward, and probably life sciences is the most important industry we serve, although we serve many. And many of the people that I see here on the ends have been working with us or try to do business with us. And then we also represent a fund that is called the BIRD Foundation. It stands for U.S. Israel Binational Industrial R&D Foundation. In the case that your company or your investigator in some cases want to accelerate the development of what you do, you may choose to partner with Israeli partners that have skills or know-how that you don't have to reach revenue making faster. That's where you can work with us to apply for the BIRD Foundation, which is up to $1.5 million now per project and for pharma per phase of development, and we will talk about it in length later. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So for our viewers here, what I would ask, if you have questions, please feel free to pop in and ask or send them through. I can't tell really how to send it, Michelle. If they can text questions through the system here, I'm sure they can. And we'll respond to them during the presentation or at the end. So feel free to pop in and ask questions as you have them. So I wanted to take the beginning before we get into each of us will individually kind of present the specialties that we're here to talk about. But I think it's a great presentation we put here together, and I'll tell you why from my perspective. So many of you know me, but if you don't, again, briefly, we're very targeted niche tax credits, mostly state credits. There are some federals, but related to economic development and other targeted activities. And despite the fact that I've been in the business since 1997, you think I know more about the things that my fellow panelists are going to present, because I quite often get asked, hey, Mike, what else should we be looking for? Yes, this is great. We love this KIZ tax credit. We love the research and development tax credit, or maybe some others that are out there. But what else is out there? And you know what I say to them? I don't know. So this is excellent for me. Hopefully I will not be asking questions that are below the level most of you. I probably most of our viewers here know more about some of this stuff than we do, but I hope to find out more and get information out there about what should people be looking for. So as far as the overall presentation, I think we have three good areas here. So I'm going to cover the kind of state, a little bit of federal, but state specific tax credits. So that's one area. Kelly will be covering federal grants, okay, and things related to that, which is second area. And then Barrett brings in the, whoever has that on, could you please mute? Can't hear who that is. Or maybe Michelle, if you could do that. Anyway, and then Barrett will be talking about little state and federal funding, but with the international flavor. So I think you get three different buckets, if you will. So I'm going to mix it up here a little bit. I was supposed to talk, but since I've already, yapped enough here, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, and she can talk about the federal funding programs that she has here. Kelly?
Thank you. Sure. So the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer, typically referred to as SBIR and STTR, I'm not going to go into a grand level of detail on that, because I think based on the names of the folks that are participating here, I think most of you are at least familiar with those mechanisms. Suffice to say, just as a repeat here, that there's 3.6 billion dollars available and specifically designated for small businesses, which are considered to be 500 employees or less. Now, at the Innovation Partnership, when we assist our clients that are seeking these grant funding opportunities from the 11 different agencies, a majority of the clients that we assist are 5 employees or less, and typically 3 employees or less. So that 500 employee or less small business designation, as determined by the SBA, we don't really assist those clients because of our limited resources. We're really working to assist the most needy and those unfamiliar with how to navigate these federal grant opportunities, right? So some of the things that we can do to assist you are help determine potentially which agencies of the 11 different agencies you would be interested in looking at, refining that. 11 agencies, that's a lot of agencies. So clearly, if you're in a specified technology area, you're going to want to refine the agencies you're looking at. So NIH, DoD, National Science Foundation, and NASA, they are the largest SBIR and STTR offering, Department of Energy, excuse me, and Department of Energy are the largest offering agencies for these grants out there. And so we can then also help you navigate the solicitations, which are the grant announcements for the topic areas that the agencies are interested in, and try to assist you in aligning, figuring out how well what you're planning to do and what you may need these grant funds for are aligned with the particular agency's mission, focus, and the solutions that they're seeking. So just in general, the awards for a phase 1 can range from anywhere from $80,000 for a 6 to 12-month project, up to could be over $256,000 for a 12-month project. A phase 2, which builds upon the phase 1 work, can be over $1 million, and phase 2s are typically for 2 years worth of project execution. So there's a good amount of funding to be had here. And I'm sure Mike's going to ask me more questions about how to navigate that and where to find them. So I'm not going to spoil the opportunity there.
Thank you. Kelly, are you got more, or is that it for now?
Well, that's it for now. So I'm pretty sure that there'll be some more questions.
Okay, so let me ask a couple questions now. While we're hot, fresh on this topic. So, as I said, I'm being, as knowing as little as I know about a lot of these areas. I still know about SBIRs and STTRs. You hear about them quite a bit. People know about them. A lot of our clients who get tax credits, some of that is because of the awards that they've gotten through those programs. But what else is out there? What other programs or areas should some of our viewers here be looking at, and where should they look, and when should they look?
Sure. That's a great question. So while the SBIR and STTR program are grants, they're grants. The agreement or form of agreement that you receive your money in the form of award can take the form of either a contract or a grant. So the agreement itself, it is based on that federal agency's means of contracting and how they contract. So it's all grant money, but some of it takes the form of a contract in terms of the paperwork that you sign. So there are two main sources of how to look for, well, really there are three, if you include SBIR and STTR. But if you want to look for other forms of grants, which could be broad agency announcements is how they come out, or federal opportunities. These can be sought if you're looking for grants only. You could go to grants.gov. They have the ability on grants.gov. You should take advantage of the tutorials to learn how to use the site appropriately, because it can be a bit confusing. And then there is a connect tab where you can, after you determine your search terms and what you're looking for, you can actually get alerts. You can sign up to receive alerts for that. Now, the reason I'm cautioning you is because there are tons and tons of grants, and you want to make sure that you're navigating that site and refining your search and being alerted for only the things that you're really interested in, because otherwise you'll be inundated with constant alerts through all the time. It's a lot. There are a lot of grant opportunities. Some may be applicable and some may not be applicable. So that's for grants. Then there is what used to be called FedBizOps. It's no longer called that. It's now called beta, BETA.sam.gov. And this is for contracts. Again, contracts could be, I'm contracting with the DoD, right? So it could be a direct contract or a subcontract, but a contract can also be that the agency, when they sign the agreement, whether it's a grant or a contract, that they're using that website. You can also sign up for alerts on that website as well, and get contract opportunities, which can be SBIRs and they can be grants. So another way to look for these opportunities is sbir.gov. And sbir.gov is run by the SBA. They have a really great page that has the solicitations and the schedule. Innovation Partnership also has a solicitation schedule, but they have sbir.gov has a newsletter also that you can sign up for and receive that newsletter regarding any type of SBA related announcements, and those also directly related to SBIR and STTR. That is not going to alert you, however, to new grants that are available. It's just going to be the SBA newsletter and changes to the overarching administration of the SBIR and STTR programs. I know it was very long-winded. I apologize.
But no, that's actually a great answer. So kind of, if I get back to the grants.gov, so grants.gov, there's tutorials that are on there to show you essentially how to use it. Because someone, again, I've looked at it over the years from here to there, and as you said, it can be a lot. So the tutorials can help folks who are maybe not so familiar with navigating it, how to navigate, how to set their alerts, and how to really target, what they should be looking for, correct?
Right. So yes, and also on sbir.gov, they have tutorials as well for specifically for the SBIR and STTR grants. And again, I would strongly encourage folks, we have a hyperlink to that on the Innovation Partnership website, because we want everybody to take full advantage of those tutorials that the federal government has made available. The sbir.gov tutorials that specifically focus only on SBIR grants, it's really neat. They have 3 formats. So you could download the information in PDF form, you could watch a video, or you could listen to the PowerPoint, have full dynamic PowerPoint, because they realize people have different ways that they like to learn and receive their information. So again, the grants.gov, you need to go, after you do the tutorials, to the tab that says connect, and then there is something that says manage subscriptions, and that is where you will put in your keyword terms or refine your keywords. I mean, you'll have to register, right? So you'll be alerted then, but I would encourage you to really go through those tutorials beforehand, because when I first did it, I can say I didn't necessarily do that, and just the notices just keep coming and popping up, and it's very distracting throughout your day. You can always change them if you realize you're getting too many notices, but it helps if you go through the tutorials first.
Great. And then last, and I'm going to switch to Barrett next, the Innovation Partnership. So I saw that you help, and as you said, folks who are looking at the SBIRs, STTRs, you help them target towards the things that would be the most applicable to them. Do you do that with not the things that would be out there in addition to the SBIRs and STTRs, or is it more that you're looking for the viewers here to see the opportunities that they can find and then bring them back and ask you for assistance? I know the second is true, but is the first true as well?
So the second is definitely true.
Right.
There is sort of that sweat equity in doing your homework. I mean, once I help guide you, or my colleagues help guide the client through the SBIR matching process and refining those agencies that might be a good fit and showing you where to search and those sorts of things, you may come across, clients may come across other funding opportunities that we may or may not be able to formally assist with, but we can counsel on. The key to the may or may not is that our Innovation Partnership Program, we've created a SBIR STTR specific instrument for the clients to complete, to help them really flush out these core areas that the feds are interested in. Those are directly related to SBIR and STTR proposals, or the broad agency announcements or federal funding opportunity announcements that are similar to an SBIR in their structure and intent and the information they're requesting. So we don't have, let's say, a different instrument for all 11 agencies. Our instrument is evergreen and is agency agnostic. So we can help with other grant funding opportunities at the federal level as long as they're within the same kind of scope and intent as an SBIR.
Great. So before I go to Bert, again, I would encourage folks, if you're looking at SBIRs, STTRs, or again, as Kelly had said, some others that could be specific to their mission, I would encourage you to get in touch with the Innovation Partnership. It's funded, through the state, right? DCD, is that the funding?
The SBA are partner organizations.
Yep.
All 17 partners contribute a membership fee every year to provide the matching funds necessary for the grant we applied for as the Innovation Partnership from the SBA. So SBA is at the moment and our partners are the current primary funders of the initiative.
Great.
DCD created it and has funded it throughout the years as well.
So another fantastic resource is at your fingertips here in Pennsylvania to be taking advantage of if you're not already. With that, I'll turn it over to Vered to talk about the bird and the other things that she's working on. Go ahead, Vered.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I would start anytime you think about bird or any joint venture with someone, whether they're in the US or Israel or another location, think, why are you doing this? It needs to make sense for your company. And the goal here is to commercialize and make good revenue, right? So once you identify that, the Philadelphia Israel Chamber is in a position to help connect you with Israeli Partners for Innovation. We help scout the companies and make even the introductions. But it's best, as Kelly said, if you're vested in it. So you know what you do best, and you're in the best position when we give you the tools to find your partners. And at that point, we are very glad to help with introductions and help you vet if these are good, valid, strong partners for you, because it's like a wedding for a while. You are going to be with them and working very closely with them, and it's your time more than the money. So after we help with that, we coach you to win the grant, and through the grant, we help you, succeed completing the grant properly. The Bird Foundation is a federal grant, very similar in how it's structured to the NIH grants or others. The key components here are first, technology that is disruptive for its industry, a really game changer for its industry. Second, the R&D or the development should be done in Israel and here and cannot be done by the same company and its daughter company or something like that. Two different partners. It could be a Brazilian company located in Pennsylvania that has R&D in Pennsylvania partnering with an Israeli. We don't care what nation this originally from. We care that the R&D is in the US and in Israel. The third thing, as I mentioned, is to show that how you're going to make revenue. And the fourth very important thing is to show that there's solid partnership and meaningful between the companies. Sometimes people rush into it, and we want to see that it actually makes sense, because otherwise the project will not fail. And basically, the government, the federal government, as an investor in your project, is not going to achieve its goals. So on the board of the bird, you have the National Institute for Standard Technology and the Innovation Authority in Israel. They have basically people who will review your project like any investors. And we help you think about what you need to do in order to be successful, because this is a national competition. And just like Kelly mentioned, if we don't apply, Pennsylvania don't win. So we try bring more funding to this to the Commonwealth by helping you apply properly. The deal is like that. This is a non-dilutive grant, and it's up to 50% of the budget for this specific project, because you can have ultimately, if you're successful, more than one project for bird. And you are going to be vested with your partner. So it can't be, let's say, a big company from Israel or here saying, oh, we're going to match all the 50, whatever, if it's $1 million, we're going to pay the whole $1 million, and you'll be fine. No, we want to see both partners vested in the money that they bring into the project and the money that they split. So if you apply for $1 million, up to 50% of your budget, then you'll receive $1 million. Ultimately, if you're successful, right? And most recently, apparently, they increased it to $1.5 million for outstanding projects. If it's pharmaceutical, So it's per phase of development, because obviously million in this scheme is not much. And you can see in this slide how it's all splits. Money can be also considered your what you call sweat money, whatever you pay your employees, your office, your lab, your marketing expenses, travel if you have any, website, all of that is supposed to be whatever it is to make this project get to market. That's considered your budget for this project. Okay, this is pretty much in essence. So we will prepare you for the evaluators if you wish. Sometimes people choose not to. The most important is really to prioritize what you need from the partner to achieve your goals. And that's pretty much it. We have a database that we can make available to you, and that's another way of finding partners. I sent to Michelle a link to a conference that is taking place next week, and an admission free in Israel. Attending conferences is also a fantastic opportunity to find partners. And I have to say that the likelihood of winning a grant, if it's a solid, good project, is fairly high. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned, typically the project would be a company and a company. And when I started doing this almost 8 years ago, it was a big American company and a small Israeli. Now we see the opposite, or we see very small companies also collaborating. But if you are an academic institute and your expertise are not exactly in commercializing, but you have very good technologies, you can partner with another American partner. Let's say if you're a medical device, then it's a distributor, partnering with the Israeli companies in submitting the grant, and the distributor will hire you as the contractor to actually fulfill the project, with the assumption that they will bring it later to market. So there's different kinds of formulas how we can do this. The key is to help you take whatever innovation you have and bring it to market. That's pretty much it, Michael, unless you have any other questions.
I do have a couple of questions. So can you get a little specific on what types of projects can qualify versus maybe some that people might say, or you might want to say, this really doesn't qualify?
Yes, so the scope of the grant is very, very wide. So it could be medical device, it could be pharma, it could be digital health. Now femtech is very hot. It could be even materials for let's say right now in this region you have a lot of smart fabrics for different type of things. For bio, there's really very wide scope. The submission deadlines are September and March. And if it's anything applicable for first responders, Homeland Security, let's say response to emergency of outbreaks or something, we can also have the Homeland Security deadline, which is, I think, right now, April. But I think if you have something, go to Kelly, come to me, and ask us, and we'll help you identify the sources of funding. We will figure this out. The key is to find a valuable project. And again, the scope is very wide. The other thing that I want to mention with regards to bio, and Michelle and I had conversations about it, also Todd Abrams here, who's our vice president, there's an emerging field in Israel. It's called bioconversions. And bioconversions are all the other techs that help the bio industry actually develop faster, scale, bring things to supply chain and market. So sometimes even things that you don't think about immediately that are in the industry, but a little bit outside and cross-discipline, those could be very valuable for submitting a grant. So try to think, what is the best, I guess, next leap forward that you can develop with a partner faster, and we will help you get the money for this.
And lastly, Barry, just could you give us a couple examples of regional?
Oh, sorry, I forgot about the example. I can get excited about this.
Just a couple,
Some of our famous projects, for example, the Gene Editing Institute in Christiana Care, they did 2017, I think, a fantastic project on advancing gene editing with Novelis DX, and they have received such recognition worldwide for this that it really transformed the way Christiana thinks about joint ventures, and they're now thinking about any other bird projects, as well as, of course, they won NIH and others. But once you do one and you figure out how to do it, which is actually it's pretty straightforward. It's not that complicated. It just takes time to to write a grant. It's possible. Another recent fantastic project was with Somatics. It's a digital health company that partnered with the Catholic Church nursing home in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, on a technology to monitor the senior citizens in their nursing home in Bethlehem. This device that they piloted monitors the mobility of patients to very, very little intricate details, showing if a person, what type of activities a person did without having cameras. And it was extremely successful, especially for families having remote monitoring during the pandemic when the nursing homes were closed. So this is a project that will go globally and has been developed basically in Pennsylvania, but we have many others that I can go on and on. Thank you.
So just really quick, that last one, the example that you gave, how did they end up coming together? Those seemed very...
So what happened was actually we introduced Somatics, which is a fantastic company that came to events in Pennsylvania, Israeli company, came to the Dream It, that's how it started with small companies. We connected them to a very, very large institute in the region. I don't want to name names. And sometimes big organizations, it takes them much longer to navigate decision making. Sometimes the best course is actually to take smaller organizations. Last minute, few weeks, about 2 weeks before the deadline, they say, you know what, it's not going to work for us. So we quickly worked with David Brill from the state, another representative of the Bird, other friends in Pennsylvania, doctors that we know, and we said, okay, do you know any nursing homes here that may be interested? And the funny thing is that the person that has this, we're Israelis and we happen to be Jewish Israelis, right? The person leading it is a Christian, of course, Catholic, and he is Lebanese. So Dr. Shadid is our amazing partner. He calls me in my Arabic name. It's fantastic. And, that's how it shows you that those type of joint ventures, the cross cultures, they just need to make sense.
Right.
And it's been so valuable for the nursing home because, during COVID, they were really short on staff. They needed more staff, but people were sick and couldn't get to work. And the ability to monitor how much a person drank, coffee or water, cold or hot, slept and how they slept, walked and how far, what they did, everything, read, smoked, everything. I hope they didn't smoke. All of those little details through a device on their watch could detect very minor changes in health conditions due to depression or whatever conditions that impact the mobility of the nursing home, the seniors. At this point, Somatics is now also in the pilot of another project with Jefferson. They were selected to a program there. And we're also looking at collaboration with the EU. So those type of joint submissions for grants and piloting usually lead to other projects of the Israeli companies in the region and also lead to them promoting Pennsylvania and attracting more Israeli companies to come here and basically grow the innovation ecosystem in our state. So I know people ask themselves, why should I go through a trouble of any joint venture, whether it's a company from Texas or from Israel? The key is, in Israel, the innovation pace is extremely fast. And if you want to commercialize and you don't have all the resources and someone else has the know-how, the tenacity, the innovation, the guts to go and run with you forward, that's where we come and help.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. Just the side note to both of you, that's why it's important to attend things like this. You learn so much about things you have no idea, and look what it can turn into, just from finding out the knowledge. I'm guilty of that too. Sometimes we're all so focused on our little things that we're doing, we don't take the time to say, hey, let me make sure. Now, today, attending networking events is this, right? But, getting out there, learning more about other things. So this is fantastic information. Thank you very much.
I have one more thing to add, if I may.
That was a really exciting and dynamic project. That was great. I really enjoyed hearing about that.
Absolutely.
But I think what was key in that project was to work with Michelle, to work with Kelly, to work with the state of, representatives, to reach out to people, because you can't remember as a developer all the resources, but right. We collaborate. We collaborate with many institutes, with the Science Center, with the CEU Council for Growth, with any organization, the BIOS, all of them. We collaborate to make you successful. So first think about the really disruptive project. then come to us and we'll figure it out.
Great. And to add on to that, and that's one of the things I guess I wasn't going to talk about, but it's important. When you're looking at, it can be very daunting, as we're saying, with all the things that are out there, all the different, I call them A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? There's this whole alphabet soup of programs, things that are there. Go to, Department of Community and Economic Development, State of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia Commerce Department, your county economic development people. In many cases, they know a lot of people who are in these different spokes on the wheel that can get you to these resources. So I do encourage you to, again, we're talking Pennsylvania here, but it could be New Jersey EDA, Pennsylvania DCED, your county economic development organization, because that's kind of where or city, if you have it down to that level, where it starts, and they can point you out to these resources like we're talking about today.
Right. Let's not forget, I was going to interject, let's not forget either our institutions of higher education and our research institutions, because they're all valuable, important partners in all of this, whether you're currently on the research side looking to spin out, or you're looking for a research partner to potentially fulfill a project need and do contract or subcontract some of the work that you're doing. We have so much expertise here in Pennsylvania in our research institutions. So it's extremely important there too. They can always also be the first touch contact that refers you over to one of us. So let's not forget about them as well.
Very well
I would
said.
advise another thing that is very important in my mind. If you're a CEO or a business development person for a company, you've got to recognize your limitation. And if you're not experienced and you don't know, or you're frazzled, or you don't have the time to write a grant, invest in someone who would help you. Because in the big grand scheme of things, it's a management thing. And if you can't manage how to get to that grant, you won't have that money. So you have to recognize it's attainable. The percentage success rate of BIRD, if it's a good project, is very high. And a lot of times people win the money. I mean, they actually don't get the money because they haven't fulfilled the whole process. They decided to do something else or whatever. So the success rate is very high. But if you don't invest in the staff or hire someone to help you, if you don't have the resources to write the grant, you're not going to get it. So that's another thing that Michelle, Kelly, Michael, and me maybe can help you find the right people, because it's a competition with other regions in the US, and we want you to have the money, bottom line.
Very well said. And I'm sorry if you cover this, Kelly, just briefly before I get to my stuff. When I looked at the innovation partnership, and it talked about the difference in probability of winning if you're doing people who did it basically independently versus using the help of the partnership. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's interesting because I just put together yesterday our brief PowerPoint for requesting continuation of funding from the SBA. And obviously I had to pull together all my statistics and make sure they were up to date. So we started this program, again, like I said, was originated with DCED in around 2002. We started assisting clients in 2003 with our pre-proposal technical reviews. So we've done around 665 of these technical reviews for companies throughout the state since that period of time. And we have been successful in assisting clients. And I should say, who do we specifically serve? I think I mentioned it briefly, but we're specifically looking to assist clients who are first-time applicants, have never prepared this type of grant before, because it's very different than a typical R01 research grant. There's sort of a different language to it that we help you finesse. And we also help clients specifically who have tried to submit on their own and been unsuccessful. So there are a lot of, if you look at the metrics and who's won awards in Pennsylvania, you'll see companies that have millions and millions of dollars in SBIR and STTR awards. We aren't really looking to assist them because they know the recipe. They know how to bake the cake, and they're really good at it. But So those are the clients that we assist. So of those 665 reviews that we've done, we've had about, I'd say 590 or so companies who actually did submit their proposals. And then of those, 136 have won federal phase 1 or phase 2 awards to the tune of around $34 million. So our submission to win rate is around 23%. And if you look across all of the 11 federal agencies, they claim that the award submittal to award rate is between 14 and 21%, right? So, I mean, that's pretty broad in terms of its range, but I think we're doing pretty well in terms of our success rate, considering most of the clients that we assist really need the basic help that we provide, such as the matching and the focus on the agency, connecting with the agency topic authors, vetting the concept and the idea. And let's not forget too, then, because we have a collaborative initiative with all these 17 partner organizations and institutions of higher education, again, we're able to make the right contacts for potential other forms of funding, like through Ben Franklin Technology Partners or the Life Sciences Greenhouses that make investments as opposed to grants. So as you move through your success as a business and innovating and commercializing your technology, there's a continuum of service providers throughout the state who can help with making connections to other investors and add value-add services as well.
That's great. Great stuff. And, you know, for the folks that are on today, I would encourage you to get in touch with our panelists, and also for your other people in the scientific community out there that you know of. You're talking about funding, you know, please remember, you know, it's a great way to network and get people to these resources that work. So with that, I'll talk about the third topic of our three buckets, if you will, and that's say state tax credits, and some little bit of federal too. A couple specifically targeted towards this audience, you know, healthcare, life sciences, you know, young technology companies. So the first one is the Keystone Innovation Zone tax credits. So that's a state of Pennsylvania. So again, we're talking Pennsylvania, a program that's through the Department of Community and Economic Development. That is for young companies that are less than 8 years old, are located within a Keystone Innovation Zone, and have IP that is producing revenues. And that tax credit is equal to 50% of your year-over-year increase in revenues, up to $100,000 per year. So to take a step back, when we talk about, well, what's a tax credit, you know, worth, or how is that useful to a young tech startup that really has no tax bill? Well, that tax credit and a couple of the others I'm going to talk about, you can not only use for your own tax liability, but you can sell that tax credit on the open market. So the state wisely in about 2003, 2004 started allowing young tech companies to sell those credits, and you sell it to big companies, Apple Computer, Amazon, you know, insurance companies who are buying millions of these tax credits to lower their tax bill. You buy it at a discount. So if it's a $100,000 credit, you're going to sell that for 92, 93, 94 cents on the dollar. So you're going to, you know, and there's some fees associated with that if you sell it through people like us, but either way, you're getting $90,000. I mean, that's a very significant amount of non-dilutive capital that the state is providing in that incentive program to help you grow your business. The administration of that are through Keystone Innovation Zone coordinators. Erica Swift from BioSP is the KIZ coordinator for what's called the Bio Launch 611 KIZ. So if you are a young company and you want to take advantage of the program, you have to be located in the geography of a KIZ. So in the Philadelphia area, we're fortunate to have several Keystone Innovation Zone geographies and several great KIZ coordinators like Erica, who do a fantastic job. So that one, the Bio Launch 611 KIZ, is essentially everything north of Girard Avenue and everything east of Route 202. So if you drew a line all the way out Route 30 to King of Prussia, up 202 to Doylestown, and then back down that giant swath of land in Montgomery and Bucks County and Philadelphia, if you're a company who meets those qualifications, young tech, IP, you can qualify potentially for that KIZ. There's also the University City KIZ, which is fantastically run by the University City Science Center, and Alapia Simmons there. So that's just very generally a a big bubble around, University City, the Pennovation Center that's down in Grace Ferry, and then everything from University City, from I believe it's Market to Walnut, all the way across to Old City, and then up a little bit, down there in Old City. So I can get you more specifics on that, but that's a KIZ geography. The Navy Yard, run by PIDC, is a KIZ geography. What's called I2N, which is run by the Chester County Economic Development Council. They do a great job out there. That's various locations in Chester County and Delaware County. And then lastly, the Dr. Block's bio facility up there in Doylestown, that's a Keystone Innovation Zone. So all of those areas, if you're in there, if I could impart one piece of advice to you, if you're a young tech company, if it's apples to apples on where you're going to be located, meaning it's not outrageously more expensive or out of your way, I don't know why you wouldn't want to be in one of those KIZs. That could be worth $100,000 of tax credits to you for every year that you're less than 8 years old. That's a significant amount that the state is willing to invest into your company if you're the right company and you're generating revenues. And by the way, the revenues, going back to Kelly and Barrett were talking about, revenues for the KIZ include grants from any source whatsoever. So the SBIR grant, the Bird Foundation grant, if you're fortunate enough to compete and get one of those grants and you're a pre-revenue company, which many of you companies would be, that counts as your revenue. So you can get the grant, you can get that, and then it actually can turn into a tax credit. So it's a double bang for your buck. So that's the first program. Second program, really the two, are research and development tax credits. So many of you have heard of them, maybe some of you are familiar with them, but research and development tax credits have been around at the federal level for many years, probably since the 70s. The IRS Code 41C defines what's a qualified research expense. And if it's a qualified, and it would be what you think when you're investing in the development of your project, and you're investing in the United States, right? So the R&D is actually happening in the United States. In a very general sense, that's a qualified revenue expense. And now, the one thing that's important to note is grants do not count as a qualified grant. Is what's called other funding sources. So it actually has to be money that's being invested and being spent in your company, but not the grant money. You can't double count it. So grants don't count towards R&D, but the other money that you're spending to develop your product does count, and that tax credit, at a very general level, is about 8 to 10% of what you're investing in a year. It's a little more, it's complicated, but I'll just use that as a number it usually turns out being. And the value of that credits to a young company, so certainly you can carry them forward for up to 15 years, or it might be 20 years at the federal level, and use them against your federal income taxes. But as a young company, if you're less than $50 million and you've had $0 in revenues in any of the previous 5 years, you're considered a startup, and you can use those to offset the employer's portion of your Social Security taxes. So they're very, if you're a young company, so let's say you're starting, you're like, well, why should I? Because you want to start accumulating those. So then when you have some employees and have to pay your employer's share, your FICA taxes, the Social Security portion of it, this credit can offset it dollar for dollar. So it's very valuable to a young, growing company to help offset those expenses so you can reinvest them back into developing your product and more into your company. So that's at the federal level. At the state level, Pennsylvania also has a research and development tax credit. If you're having what qualifies at the state level, the same qualifying expenditures via the IRS guidelines, and you're performing it in Pennsylvania, that's a qualified research expense in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania's credits are based on an increase from year to year. So if you're increasing your R&D spend from year to year in Pennsylvania, you could qualify for a tax credit. Very generically, if for small companies, it's 25% of the it's 50% of the increase. I'm getting my numbers. It's 20% of the increase from year to year, and that increase is either 50% of the prior year or the average of the previous 4 years. With whatever's greater, you take the difference, multiply it times 20%. That's your tax credit. The great thing about the R&D tax credit is, like the KIZ credit, you can sell it for cash. So if you're a young growing company, again, this is a great source of funds for things that you're doing, and these are incentives to get you to do it, in Pennsylvania, to have you spend and invest more in R&D, and this is a way that the state helps incentivize you to do that, and do that in the state of Pennsylvania. So those are the 2 or 3, if you want to consider the federal a different credit, but Keystone Innovation Zone tax credits, Okay, the first thing I would say, do look at DCED's website and check that out. The second thing I would say is if you are in a KIZ or considering going to one, you should get in touch with the Keystone Innovation Zone coordinator and introduce yourself, talk about what your product is, and make sure that you qualify. They're the people that oversee that. And again, in Bio 611, that's Erica Swift. In University City, it's Alapia Simmons at the University Science Center. The Navy Yard, it's PIDC. Dr. Block has somebody up in his facility. And in the I2N, which is Chester and Delaware counties, it's the Chester County Economic Development Corporation. I'm going to encourage you to get in touch with them. The research and development, the important thing to recognize about that is you do have to document what your expenditures are. You're not required to have an audit done, but you can be audited. It's a tax credit that you're taking. So make sure you know, look at the legislation. If you don't know or you're not comfortable identifying what a qualified research expenditure is, go to your accountant and talk to them. If your accountant doesn't know, your accountant likely knows a company that specializes, specialty tax firm that can help you. We have some. We don't do that. We refer that out. We just sell the tax credits, but we can help you find people who know how to do that. So that's what I would recommend for those. There are some other credits, that are not necessarily applicable to Pennsylvania. There's film tax credits or video game tax credits, but that's probably not for this audience. So that's pretty much everything that I have to talk about. And I think with that, Michelle, would you say we're probably at the point where we start asking if there's any questions, or do you have any questions, Michelle, for us, given what we've talked about so far?
We do have a couple of questions. The most recent one's related to your presentation here on tax credits. One is, can tax credits be received for prior years? And then there's a question about a resource to know who might be able to help with this process or the KIZs in the Pittsburgh area.
Sure. So let's start with the first one was what? I'm sorry, Michelle. Say again, real quick. I got lost in let's go to Pittsburgh. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yes. The first question is, can tax credits be received for prior years?
3 years. Okay, great question. So the answer is, with your federal credit, with your federal research and development credit, yes, you can amend up to 3 years prior tax returns. So you're essentially able to go back in your any open tax year, which you can go back and amend 3 years. So yes, if you've had any significant R&D expenses at the federal level, I would take a look at it, talk to your accountant, and say, hey, is it enough to make it worthwhile for us to go back and claim these things? At the state level, the answer is no. However, in Pennsylvania, the way that it works is each year, so now we're in the year 2021, you're going to apply for your 2020 tax credits, KIZ and R&D, by September 15th. So you're actually able right now to apply for what you qualified for in 2020. You can't go back prior to that. So in the state of Pennsylvania, unfortunately, the answer is no, you can't go back to prior years. As far as in the Pittsburgh area, if someone just reaches out to me, Michelle, I would get them in. We can help them, or I can refer them to a contact in the Pittsburgh area who can definitely help them with their KIZ credits.
And thank you. And it looks like Erica has posted in the chat, for those of you who might not have noticed, some resources for the Pittsburgh area.
Yep. Excellent. Any other questions for us, Michelle?
We have a number of comments. We had someone Kurt recommended folks reach out to their SBDCs also would be a good source of information. And I believe, Baird, you had mentioned earlier in our pre-planning call about the SBDC coordinator for the Philadelphia area. If you'd care to comment on that.
Yes, so there is additional source of money that if you are collaborating with the Israeli company, which is considered European, or any other European partner, there's sources of funding through the Enrich program, and Blondin is the one representing in the region as part of Temple University. And I think if anyone contact Michelle or me, we can give you the contact information for Blondin.
Also, yes, the SBDCs are a foundational partner that help to create the Innovation Partnership, and they're an integral partner with the Innovation Partnership and supporting us throughout the state at their every location that they have available. So a lot of the clients actually, because they need assistance with their business plan and really understanding their market for their potential innovation or their technology, greatly benefit by having their first touch an intro to the SBIRS TTR Opportunity B, a small business development center. So sorry if I overlooked bringing that up. On the Innovation Partnership landing page, if you scroll down, there's a carousel of all of our partner organizations with hyperlinks out to their main websites as well, if you needed a landing point to look for those sorts of things.
Great. And actually, after asking about the Pittsburgh question for the Keystone Innovation Zone, I would mention similarly, there are, I believe at this point, 27 different Keystone Innovation Zones throughout the state of Pennsylvania, and all just, just randomly, Bethlehem, downtown Bethlehem has some, Luzerne, Lackawanna counties up in northeastern Pennsylvania each has one, Pocono Mountains, Harrisburg, Erie, there's a couple out in Pittsburgh. So what I would recommend, if you're on this or know others that are throughout the state of Pennsylvania and other regions, that again, you go to the Department of Community Economic Development website, DCED, do a simple Google search, on Keystone Innovation Zone tax credits, DCED, and it will get you to the page where each KIZ coordinator is, where they are, what regions they cover, and that's who you want to get in touch with. So for that additional information. Outside of that, I think that's all that I have to cover. That's all the questions I have. Do any other questions, or if there's anything else that we want to share? Otherwise, Michelle, I guess you'll let us know what the next steps are.
So we had a question about whether or not we could send out the slides after this presentation, and absolutely we can do that. So you can look for those in your inbox. I wanted to thank very much all of our panelists today, Mike, Vered, and Kelly, and of course, as always, our sponsors, Mike included. And we thank you. We know you have busy schedules and you have other demands on your time, but it's very helpful for you to share, particularly with our entrepreneurial and academic community here, what you know about these lesser known sources of funding. So thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your time today.